Okay, so welcome. Hi and welcome. It's nice to see you.
Hi, Anthony.
Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
I sure will. I'm Barbara Giarmo, and my husband Tony and I live in Paramus, New Jersey, which is in Bergen County. We've been here for 33 years.
Great, excellent. And let me ask you, how does the LGBT community relate to you?
Well, it relates to me because it is related to me. It's very interesting that my husband and I grew up in the 60s, actually came of age in the 60s when the gay movement was coming of age in New York City. We were in college at the time, so we were, you know, kind of like the peaceniks, the flower children, and we're very open with what was happening in the world and very supportive of our friends who started to come out, especially after Stonewall, and didn't make a difference to us. We were a couple by then, and we just knew that, once we decided to get married and we decided to have a family, we even spoke about, gee, like the what ifs about having children. Like,
Yeah.
what if our child were born with a disease or with some, physical ailments, and we would love the child just the same. And we even talked to ourselves, said to one another, what if our child came out to us as gay? We said, Not a problem. We would just love the child, unconditionally." Little did I know that when our son Christopher was born, that when he was age 13, he would come out as gay. The night before his eighth grade was to start, he told us that he was homosexual back at that time, back in '96, I guess it was when he came out to us. And he was our only child. My husband's nephew had come out to the family 2 years earlier. And Chris had said we were so accepting of his cousin coming out that it was not an issue for us, that he knew that he wanted to come out to us early on because his cousin waited quite a while and didn't come out. And our son Chris wanted us to be part of his life. And part of his life is that he was gay. So it was that night. I'll never forget it. I'll never forget what he looked like, what he was wearing, my reaction. My husband was very, very, welcoming, and both of us were. But I was a little concerned. I'm like, my concerns were for his safety.
Mhm.
96 was not like 2021. So it was a little bit different. And my concerns were for his safety. And selfishly, I thought of, I'll never be a grandmother. I'll never have grandchildren. My son is gay. He's not going to have kids. And now here it is. Fast forward to 2021. Our gay son is the biological father of his lesbian friend's 3-year-old, and is going to be the biological father of the second child next month, actually in 10 days. So I am a glam mother. That's what they call us, Grandma Barb, and my husband is Grandpa Tony. And so yeah, so so my involvement. And it's funny because my involvement was not just with family being related. Even before Chris had come out, I worked for, at that time it was called Bell Atlantic, which later became Verizon. And I was a diversity manager at Bell Atlantic before my son had even come out. And I had a lot of gay friends in Bell Atlantic who were not being treated fairly and were having some issues. So we started an LGBTQ resource group. And in New Jersey, I became vice president. I was on the executive board, went around to all the Bell Atlantic companies, talking to people, and just being supportive of all my gay friends and gay employees. And diversity, was a positive thing to be supportive of. And I think a lot of that probably factored into Chris coming out, that he saw his mom, I took him to parties with my gay friends who were employed at Bell Atlantic, and, swim parties. And we even marched on the year 2000 march together with Bell Atlantic. And so it was an easy choice for him to come out to us, that he knew we would be very supportive of him. although I do have to say, um, uh, he brought me into um, more of a speaking role and more of a advocate for him. He was in high school and probably a junior in high school and attended a multicultural camp, I think up at Fairleigh Dickinson in Madison. And it was the Maddie Feldman camp. Maddie Feldman, I think, was either a state senator or assemblyman from Bergen County years ago. And there was a multicultural camp that students from Bergen County high schools would be invited in their junior year to go in the summer and just meet, people from different cultures and have speakers come in. And Chris was, I guess, a junior in high school at the time. And they had people from PFLAG, which is Parents, Family, and Friends of Lesbians and Gays, a support group that was in Bergen County. And they came to talk about what they did. And Chris came out to the kids that he was there at the camp with and talked his story. And the two people from PFLAG were so impressed with him and said, gee, it would be great to have you come and speak with us. You could probably be good at speaking to teachers and students. And so he started speaking for PFLAG and he said, Ma, you might want this. And not that me or my husband needed the support of other parents, but I just saw an opportunity to maybe help other parents who were struggling, back in the late 90s with their kids coming out and not understanding and just wanting to ask questions. So PFLAG was like the resource around here back in the day. And so I became involved, became president of PFLAG, still speak on their behalf when I'm asked. So it was a great opportunity. But it was hard with Christopher because he was getting older and a teenager and still in high school, and there was no place for him to go. I mean, there was no place. I mean, to drag him to a PFLAG meeting, it's all parents, older people. He couldn't get the networking that he wanted and questions answered that he wanted. I know at a young age, we allowed him to go into New York. And he did. He went to New York, probably to the LGBT Center in New York at times, different conventions or conferences that were happening in the city. They weren't happening here in New Jersey. There had been, I think, back in the 90s at the Ethical Culture Society in Teaneck, a group called Gaily that met. I think it was Gaily. I'm not sure, but they would meet on Sundays for gay teens. So just to come and talk. So he did that every so often. But as far as like real networking and meeting other gay kids, because obviously still in the late 90s, kids were not coming out in high school. In
Mhm.
fact, the 4 years he was in Paramus High School, he was the only out gay child. Nobody else was open enough and felt comfortable enough to do it, but he did. And so he really was hard to find, other kids like him. And we used to drive him up to Morris County, up in Morristown, to dances that were up there for gay teens. And there's nothing around here. So that's how, I saw the lack of resources here in Bergen County. And back in 1997, um, a lot of group of community activists for the LGBTQ community in Bergen County got together at Christ Church in Ridgewood. And there was a gay resource group in Christ Church. And they were thinking of gathering people together to kind of brainstorm what we can do for gay youth here in Bergen County. And back in 1997, we called it the Queer Cafe. And in October of 97, we did the first LGBTQ rainbow pumpkin dance at Christ Church. We had it all decorated. One of the men who ran the group was an art teacher, was just so clever with beautiful decorations. And we had all these kids come from, the area. And it was the most amazing night to see these kids have a place to go. And can I read something to you? Because this is
Of course.
why
No, this
this
is
is
your
what
spot.
this is what kept me involved in wanting to do stuff and hoping that something would happen. This is back in October 29th of 2007. The day after we did the rainbow pumpkin dance, I got an email from this young girl, and she said, "Last night was the rainbow pumpkin dance, and I had an amazing time there. I know I and the rainbow pumpkin dancers, what we've taken to calling ourselves, had an amazing time and wanted to thank everyone who was a part of making it happen. We have formed a Facebook group, and many of us have some great ideas for pulling off another dance, rainbow snowflake dance, and even for starting a rainbow prom in our area. There are many of us willing to put time into raising money and doing whatever it takes to create more events like the dance and to create comfortable environments for LGBTQ youth and their allies. We would like to thank you again for giving us that opportunity to be in a safe, comfortable environment to make friends and be ourselves. I am part of the queer community, but I cannot be out about my sexuality because it is both against my religion and my parents' views, along with some of my close friends' views. This makes it complicated sometimes to keep the relationship with my girlfriend, who was out but very understanding. Going to the dance gave us a chance to finally be together without hiding behind closed doors, and it felt amazing. I cannot thank everyone who was part of it enough for what you did that night. Even if I were to never get that opportunity again, I am so grateful for that one night. Thank you so, so much. And just reading that from her, and it was like, oh my gosh, these kids, really have no place to go. There's nothing to do. So we continued with the Queer Cafe for maybe about a year in Ridgewood. And it kind of slipped away because the two people who were really the leaders of it relocated out to the West Coast. And nobody stepped in to fill their shoes. And it kind of fizzled until when I was at a PFLAG meeting, and a very tall man, a reverend from United Church of Christ in Cresskill, Reverend Bo, and I know you know who he is, and I know he's already spoken to you, but he walked in and he came to the PFLAG meeting because he was a minister, and there was a young boy in his community who was gay and really needed some place to go. And I remember Bo talking to us that night saying, gee, isn't there anything around? And it was like, oh, Bo, I said, several years ago, we did have this group in Ridgewood that kind of, fizzled out. And he said, gee, can we start one up again? I said, are you willing? And he goes, yes, I'm willing. And so he rekindled it and called it the Rainbow Cafe. And I know the history, he told you all about it. But so that was at least a place, and still here, on a church in their property, for these kids to get together and not just communicate by dancing and having fun, but a place that, Bo brought in resources for them, people that they could talk to, people that could explain, things, especially as heterosexual parents. I could never talk to my son about sex. I couldn't talk about gay sex. He went to a conference at NYU to learn about, what's safe sex for him. And so Bo, made this opportunity available for these kids. And I think maybe the first dance that we did at the Rainbow Cafe, they had, even from Midland Park, a school bussed in kids to come to the dance. There were so many kids that came from all over, and it was like, wow, this is what we need. This is what Bergen County needs. It needs a place for these kids. I mean, I know there's gay straight alliances in the schools. I know there's, they say there are safe spaces for kids to go. But as far as socializing and really learning from people who are like them, there's no place. And the beauty of the LGBTQ Center in New York is everything is there. If you need to find a therapist, if you need to find a doctor, if you need to learn a legal advice, they have all that available in this one place. But it's in New York, and New York is not New Jersey. I'm sorry. It's it's nice to think that, because we're in the shadows, oh yeah, we can just go over there. These kids can just go over there. But no, not really. It would be great to see something pop up here that would certainly meet the need of these kids. And I'm looking at 25 years ago when I was looking for something for Christopher. And, and he was looking for something. And it's like, wow, 25 years later, and we still don't have, a center. I mean, we raised the rainbow flag. I mean, hallelujah, Bergen County does it every June. They raise the flag for the day. A lot of towns are doing it. They're in Tenafly, they even do. So there are things that are changing, that people are becoming more aware and supportive and out about everything. But we just need a lot more. And I'm just so glad that you're doing this, that you're looking to to make things happen. And
Yeah.
I'll do whatever I can, however you need me, and any resource I could pull in.
That would be amazing, and thank you. Like, it, I'm thinking this was about raising awareness, but I'm realizing there's a
Mhm.
whole history from people like yourself that have stories like you just shared with us that will be lost. So this
Yeah,
started solely to raise awareness and to
right.
maybe be like a virtual resource center. That was my thinking, and the more I listen and learn, it's like it's just amazing history. And
Right.
well, I forgot to say thank you. I forgot to say congratulations. You're another grandma.
Yes,
And I've been waiting to say that. It's like,
yes,
yay.
March 6th. Babies, we don't know if it's going to be a boy or a girl, but March 6th, the next one from the second mother. So Christopher's he's biological father for both moms. So both kids will have his genes, which is great, which is just a wonderful.
They have his red hair too.
Well, yeah, the Milo has the red hair.
Mhm.
I don't know if the next one will, but it's so interesting because when this was happening, when we knew this was going to happen, and Tony and I had no idea how we would fit into this whole thing, because Chris and his husband live in New Orleans. Tony and I live here in New Jersey. The one mother, her mother lives in Arizona. The two mothers, Milo's mother, they live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so we're like all over the country. And it's like, well, we'll never see them again. But we got an invitation to Sharon, who's the first mom, 3 years ago, to a baby shower for her here in New Jersey. She came back to New Jersey because her parents lived here, and there was a baby shower, and we were invited. Tony and I were invited to this baby shower. So it was like, oh, wow. And we walked into the house not knowing anybody, and we were so welcomed. It was like, you're part of our family now. And it's like, well, but it's just, he's just the sperm donor. And it's like, no, 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 you're part of the family. Because it
Yeah.
turns out Christopher and the two moms are all only children. So they're very small families. So now this family has just grown and is growing even more. And it's absolutely wonderful that we could be part of this new family.
Hmm.
And the new family dynamic, with these two little children having two moms, rather than a mom and a dad, and they're growing up, being so open and aware of multiple family relationships, which is wonderful.
Hmm.
And the fact how anybody I've told over the last 3 years, even people that I wasn't sure how they would accept this, I've been so accepting and just so supportive. And yeah, it's times are changing, Anthony. I mean, I just look back when Chris came out, when he was I guess entered into high school, and he and I were invited to a cable news show just to talk about him coming out to me and him being out and what it was like. And I was a little worried back in 97, 98, whatever it was, to go on TV and be revealed and to be outed, to out ourselves, not knowing how some people would accept, especially some relatives. And didn't think anything about it. Nobody really called to say anything, or nobody put me down. And a few days after the show, I got a card from a cousin who lived in South Jersey, who said, I saw you and Chris on TV. We are so proud of the two of you. it's such a wonderful story. You have our support. And I never expected in a million years that she would do that, that she'd be
Mhm.
somebody. It's like, wow. And my mom, who was alive at the time, was another one who's like, I'm telling everybody, I don't care. I'm at the hairdresser. I'm telling everybody. And she goes, you know what, Barb? When I tell somebody, they say, well, my son is gay too. And she goes, it starts a conversation and acceptance. And our PFLAG meetings was always about that. Well, how do I come out? How do I tell people? And it's like, well, you'll know when it's the right time. You'll know, and it's not easy for everybody to do,
Mhm.
but once you do, it's just, you find that, there's so many people who are like you, who support you. And yeah, so we just have to keep, looking for ways to support, our kids and the new kids today, and gives them the opportunity to have a place to congregate, to have a place where
Yeah.
they can go. And I mean, I know, and I worked at the YWCA North Jersey. It was Bergen County at the time. And it wasn't that long ago when we started um, with Healing Space. Prior to that was the Rape Crisis Center, where, it was even, we didn't have the resources to support the LGBT community. And I know that has changed, thank God. It's wonderful to see, that there's an understanding and acceptance, and being able to support what's happening in the LGBTQ community with sexual assault. And yeah, it's great that all these organizations are seeing what needs to be done, and doing it. So
Mm.
yeah, we just have to kind of pull our resources together and make this center happen.
So, my I would like to ask you, what do you think has been the barrier for not having a center in New Jersey? I mean, I can't be the first one to sit there and be like, "Hey, why aren't we have a center here?"
Well, I wonder if it is because people say, well, New York is just a token ride away, or, a bus ride away.
Mm.
We can go into New York and we can never match up to be like what New York is. Well, you shouldn't have to think to be like New York is. We should be our own. I don't know. I know there is, doesn't our county executive has an LGBTQ advisory board?
I'm on the board.
Oh, okay. Well, now, Anthony, why isn't the board recommending this? Has it ever? Have you ever recommended it to the board?
Well, we'll talk about that all at
Okay.
another
But
time.
it has to come. I mean, we can do a bottoms up thing, which, I think we are trying to do that. But it would be great if, at a county level, that, through your advisory board and PFLAG and other organizations, that the recognition is there that we need to do something, that
Yeah,
we need to do something. We're all, as a parent of a gay child, and, I'm sure other people you're talking to,
yeah,
you know, realize that it is needed. We do need to do something.
yeah,
You know, it's be so much easier to be able to get the word out when we have something that is a county sponsored, or would be great if it's county sponsored.
yeah,
You get the word out so much easier. I know the Rainbow Cafe is available, but it's hard to get the word out.
yeah.
There's no, the media would be so much easier to approach with you know, Bergen County LGBTQ Center, in
Yes,
Hackensack, the county seat.
yeah. And it's interesting because I've this has been for like years now. I've been pushing and prodding and asking these questions,
Mhm.
and this is my attempt to make that happen by
Okay.
giving a platform to people like yourself, and then also so not to be confrontational, but raise awareness, and also raise awareness of the boundaries,
Mm.
and what's stopping from this happening, so we can
Right.
fix those issues, and you know, what I'm putting together, I think it's just a huge disconnect and understanding of, what the real issues are. Because I'm talking to some people that work with children, and I'm
Mm.
talking like social workers, and their stories are a lot more dire,
Right.
and you know what I mean? And it's on that level. And then I talk to other social workers, and they talk about you know, drugs and addiction and depression that's going
Mhm.
on for older, a little bit older, from kids up to older. So it's
Right,
like there's a need to have it for just for the socializing and everything,
right.
which is clearly enough to have
Mhm.
it. There's a need for people that are moving in so they can find and connect to resources.
Right,
But there's also a very, very real need for people who are suffering needlessly, and
right,
in some cases dying needlessly, you
right,
know, because they don't know where to go and get
right.
services.
Have you reached out to Michael Chizzoli from West Bergen Mental Health?
I'm, yeah, I'm reaching out to a lot of people,
Okay,
and some people, I hope to get him on here,
okay.
and because he's such, a force for
Mhm.
good for the
Yes, yes.
community.
Now,
Uh,
you know, his is a profit business, but
yeah.
I still think he might be able to help to do something like this, which is, I'm not going to say it's a political thing, but it's more of a county. It's not going to be where you have to sign your life away and pay, but it would be, something that is needed. And you're right. There are a lot of kids who are suffering.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember speaking to social workers um, and how they should approach going into a family, a home with there are some issues, and hearing some of the horror stories. And yeah, it's like, yeah, we need to be able to provide more.
Yeah.
Um, and do you think it's still fear? Do you still think it's fear or of the unknown, or fear of just the LGBTQ or
Well, I think in the last 4 years, we've been set back a lot,
Mhm.
and it allowed, a lot of
Yeah,
hatred to rise up. So
yeah,
it's a complex thing. So you have people who are driven by their religions and their
right,
culture. So that our culture that we live in is it doesn't exist. People, there are no gay people here. They don't exist. They don't have needs, or you know, you don't need to talk about them. They don't matter, kind of stuff.
yeah,
To where you
wow,
have the religion saying we need to root them out, you know,
hmm,
to the parents that are love their kids, but it becomes a fear that something's gonna bad happen to them, and that escalates into making the house so unlivable because it's constantly fighting, but it's born
right,
out of, I love you, I don't want you to get hurt, so you have to change and you have to be something
right,
else, you
yeah,
know, and
yeah,
you know how that works with kids,
mhm,
right?
mhm, yep, yep,
um so it's like it's so many complex reasons why
mhm,
there are issues, and mind you, we always gravitate to the children, but there are senior citizens that have to go back in the closet, when
sure,
they go to assisted living or
mhm,
getting home health aides or stuff like that.
right, right,
There's lots of adults right now, like you mentioned, who are dealing with sexual assault,
mhm,
domestic violence,
mhm,
especially in COVID,
right,
so there's
right,
many, many complex issues right here in our backyard
right,
that just are not being met, you
right,
know?
yeah, oh wow. And Jane Clementi is another good person from the Tyler Clementi Foundation.
Yeah, yes.
She's somebody who's another force. I think Michael Tizzoli is on their board of directors for
Mm,
the Tyler Clementi. But I mean, there are some really strong advocates that I think can work, hopefully, to get this to happen. It would be a
yeah,
wonderful, wonderful thing
yeah.
to see. And I don't know what your steps are, what you need to take to make it happen.
Well, at this moment, the sole purpose of this was initially to raise awareness
Hmm.
and to also because people you talk to someone and who in the community and you say, hey, what services are there for LGBT, myself included? There
Right,
are none. There are
right.
absolutely none. And I'm finding out that's not true.
Mhm.
There's a lot offered, and I don't think the quality is where it should be in most of
Okay.
these agencies,
Mhm.
because there is no way of, there's no agencies like doctors have a board. There is no agencies checking the quality of work And I
right,
don't mean that in a negative sense. It's just people just don't have that understanding of, the complexities of dealing with LGBT people
right.
and what are the needs. And just being gay doesn't qualify you. You
Exactly,
know what
exactly.
I mean?
You need some
So
letters after your name.
yes, so I think there's a lot of it's already there. We have a center here. It's
Okay,
just connecting the dots, and
right,
then getting a
right,
brick and mortar building is,
mhm,
I think, is the need, which
right.
can be
Mm,
done.
gosh, I hope so. I hope
Okay.
so.
Yes,
I'll do whatever I can and,
yes,
you know, please
yes,
continue.
yes. So before we wrap it up, I just want to make sure that you're aware that this is eventually going to be made public, and it's
Mhm,
going to live on a platform,
that's
and
fine.
you have
I'll sign
the
the disclaimer.
you at any moment that you feel like, you want to you want me to shut this down or get rid of your video, you just have to contact me and I'm happy to do so.
Nope, nope, I'm
Okay,
happy to be part of this, and,
thank you.
I'm an advocate for equal rights, and,
Yeah,
this is one of my pets for a long, long time. Like I said before, since the 60s. So I've been doing it for a long time, and I would love to see this happen.
so you're an elder for our community. You're an
Yes.
elder for the
Oh,
LGBT
oh,
community.
thank you, Anthony.
Well, I
Yes.
mean, in a sense, it's like you have the
Yeah,
history, and
true. That's
and
true.
you have to remember, my community, the generation before me, doesn't exist.
Right.
Most of them
Right.
are passed on because
Yep.
of AIDS, and,
AIDS. Yep. Yep.
or having to be closeted or suicide, or so there's
Right.
very, very few people, and I consider you an elder in the sense that you did the work and you were there and you experienced so much, and, you know, to me, it's not about age, it's about knowledge and the work.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that
Yes.
as I get off on my walker. No. Oh,
Well, I love you,
I love you too, Anthony.
and
Yeah, it
thank
was
you
good
so
to see
much.
you. And yeah, it's I can't wait to see what happens, what comes of this.
I'm gonna end the recording,